Captain Logan, what in the hell are you still doing here?
What are you doing here?
I am something you thought you lost long ago.
And what's that?
You already know. Look deep inside yourself.
You know, I could tell from the hat I was in for some cryptic claptrap.
Oh, save yourself the disappointment. You already know from the issue you read yesterday that all you'll find in there is wasted potential.
I won't know until I try, will I?
You know the definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. No matter how good one issue is, you know eventually it'll just degenerate in a mindless, insufferable dribble.
And a lot of it sounds like the way you talk.
You cannot insult me, Captain Logan. All that concerns me is the state of your mental health. Continue down the path you're on, and you'll reach the point of no return. The point where this place is your entire universe. Stop this madness. Quit reading these comics now, and return to your family.
I am Captain Logan, and this is day 225 of Spawn Year. Well, Captain Cagliostro wasn't wrong, about Spawn 115 at least. I feel like the guy who clicks on the pop-up ad that says, "You're the 100,000th visitor, click here to receive your free gift," and actually thinks he's going to get his free gift. Oh, this story looked legit enough, and if I hadn't investigated any further, I'd still think it was. Man, did I give last issue too much credit. I looked way too deeply into the symbolism going on in both that dream and the story about Lord Nakadai. It's not earth-shatteringly disappointing because it didn't do what I wanted or because the imagery ultimately didn't mean what I thought it should. It's earth-shatteringly disappointing because so many of those complex ideas in that dense setup never pay off at all. I was so mystified by a Spawn comic that challenged me to use my mind, ask questions, draw conclusions, and then here all those figurative notions are made literal and rendered a lot less interesting. That bridge between two worlds, it's just purgatory. I guess that narration box suggesting a chasm between what is true and what is thought to be true was just there for decoration. Could we maybe start burning all this third-person background rhetoric that adds nothing but cheap theatricality to the narrative? Comics don't need an omnipresent narrator, it's a visual medium. I realize it can be helpful to catch readers just coming aboard up to speed, and comics are commercial by nature, so I understand why that's a concern. But it's confusing when you get these blanket, matter-of-fact statements about philosophy or human nature, and you don't know where the heck it's coming from. Every now and then it actually sounds kind of profound, so it's a huge letdown when it turns out not to mean anything. And all my curiosity about why Lord Nakadai looks like a hellspawn, turns out he doesn't just look like that from the unreliable, obscured storytelling of the as of yet unnamed devil with a capital D. That's what he really looks like. At least, his soul does. The whole thing degenerates into a mystical artifact plot. Ben finds an old box at the temple he's been sent by his firm to examine. He opens it and lets out several wandering souls that never crossed over to the great beyond, and now I have that REM song stuck in my head. So Spawn runs around Japan collecting the souls and sending them wherever they belong. This is one of those Spawn stories that ignores the pesky heaven or hell question and pretends it's possible to be at peace in the afterlife of this universe. I swear, so many of these stories don't work at all if you've ever read another comic set in this reality. I'm glad Spawn finds it so natural to put souls in his cape and send them off to oblivion like he's just depositing a check via one of those suction tube things at the bank. How does he know how to do that? Better question, how does he know to be in Japan before all those souls get released? How is Spawn always conveniently wherever a story needs him to be? Is he all-knowing now? Was that mentioned offhandedly somewhere and I missed it? Hey, yeah, pretty crazy how Spawn's all-knowing now. Yeah, Zab, I know, right? And I guess Spawn was somehow eavesdropping on the story about Lord Nakadai last issue because he knows everything about him. These souls all have different reasons for not crossing over. Nakadai's is that he died without honor. Spawn respects the man because he and Al Simmons have that in common. I do really like that. It humanizes Spawn again a little, and it's a nice character parallel. In a way, Simmons' meaningless death is why Spawn wanders the Earth and can't rest too. So Spawn has to defeat Nakadai in honorable combat, which is exciting, and I like all the bowing and ceremony, but why all this pomp and circumstance for this guy if everybody else just conveniently fit in Spawn's cape like he's hawking knockoff Rolexes on street corners? Spawn wins, and Nakadai goes off for his eternal rest. Hopefully he's not in hell despite looking like a hell spawn. Guess we'll never know. So was he a spawn or not? If he was, why does he get to move on but not our Spawn? Why is the cheap, thin drama of the moment more important than telling a whole cohesive story? This issue isn't even about most of the ideas introduced in the first part. Okay, so Nakadai looks his dragon, Spawn, in the eye and it shows him pity. But I was caring about Ben's story. I wanted to see him face his dragon. I thought Nakadai's backstory was all allegorical and foreshadowing about Ben and Spawn, who should totally have teamed up and sold ice cream. But true to form, this thing proves bipolar and runs off in its own silly, uninspired direction like a Wolfram with his head cut off. We never even learn who is sitting on Nakadai's throne upon his return. How is the answer to that trivia question still D? So even when it awkwardly becomes Nakadai's story, it's left incomplete. And Ben only dreamed about the bridge to seed this whimsical fighting game arena for Spawn and Nakadai to duke it out in. That dream is still filled with cool symbols, I guess, but none of them are explored in a meaningful narrative context. Ben does nothing ultimately but find a box and get ambiguously killed by the devil, condemned to walk the earth as an invisible soul looking for the door to his hotel room for all eternity. That's a new symbol intruding on the story here, by the way, the age-old doors that lead to consequences gem. We're mixing our metaphors here. Ben opened a box, not a door. At least no Pandora this time. This issue pretends Ben was somehow manipulated by the Nakadai story to find the box and deliver it to the devil, but he was going to that temple already, and the story has nothing to do with his locating the box. His job was to search for relics that might need to be preserved, so he was going to take that box back with him no matter what, and the devil didn't need to have a storytime session with him, or kill him for that matter, to get the box from him. I can't believe one of my favorite Spawn comics to date was rendered superfluous by this, what did Captain Cog call it? Mindless drivel. I thought I was gearing up for a fascinating 3 or 4 issue arc. This is already the end of it, and it all amounted to some bad guy finding some artifact, no doubt to use against Spawn in some preposterous way. Whoa. How did that happen?